Let me cook some fried okra with potato as I continue part 6 of my life experience with you guys. So after leaving with my children, I came back to live with my sister and brother, and at this point I wasn't sure what I was going to do, with myself and how things were going to work or anything, but I know that I had to get out, so that is what I did. So during the transition, I made a police report. I was advised to get a protection order, and with the protection order I was able to get back my belongings that were left in the home. So all I really wanted was my fridge and my washing machine because they were brand new. Everything else I left there. So after a few days of settling in, I started back to work, and by this time I was working in Port of Spain in Nicholas Tower, but he already knew that I was working there. And let me tell you guys, a protection order does nothing for a person. Being honest, a protection order does nothing, because he still came to my job, he harassed me, he came to my home, he constantly harassed me until I end up had to switch locations closer to where I moved just because of it. So at this point, I was left to figure out how the hell I was going to protect myself when a protection order did nothing for me and system were in place and it didn't help me at all. So I remember I was coming close to when I was collecting my susu. This man called me and insisted that half of that money was his own because he was constantly home taking care of the children, and I had to give him half of the money. Now mind you, that was my hard-earned money because I worked for that money and I paid my susu out of my pocket. So he wasn't entitled to not even 1 cent of that money. So after a while settling down and we going back and forth, quarreling, and he coming constantly, I decided to put him in court for full custody for my children. So during the court proceeding, he weren't able to get full custody of his children because they were in my care and I was taking care of them. But he was ordered to pay $75 a week, right? Because he told them that he wasn't working, and they told him he had to come up with the money somehow. So they gave him a $75 a week payment plan, right? Which would mount up to $300 a month. And I'm telling you, he never paid a red cent until a couple months. So every maybe 4 months, he paid. So for an entire year, if he made 3 payments or 4 payments, he made plenty. And I remember for 2 years straight he did that. And then eventually he stopped paying any money. Now let me tell you guys something, and I'm going to be honest with you. You see, when you come out of a domestic violence relationship and you have children, it's the hardest thing any mother or father could go through, because not everyone opens up their home to you, right, and accepts you. If you're by yourself, it's easier for them to take you, but when you have other persons to care for, it's harder. And this was the hardest part of my life, trying to figure out how I'm going to make things work, who is going to take care of my children and when I have to work, and I end up making a very, very bad decision, and I gave him my son at a point in time. I know it was a bad decision, but I was so tired, and at this point I was so frustrated with my life because a lot of things were going on, with where I moved, and I just made that decision, and that was it. So my daughter started preschool and my son will go into primary school by his father's side. I know some of you guys would say that was a bad decision, but only if you were in my shoe back then you would understand. So by now it was 3 months when I had moved, and here is where I met my husband that I'm living with now. So I hope you guys enjoyed my story and my little video as well. See you guys in my next video, and look out for part